artist of the fascist superworld. The life of Tamara de Lempicka and life Tamara de Lempicka was a left-bank bisexual with an appetite for bohemian living. Her work, though, portrays the dubious glamour and discipline of fascism. If there is a single image that encapsulates Art Deco, it is Tamara de Lempicka's self-portrait Tamara in the Green Bugatti. It was commissioned for the cover of the German magazine Die Dame, which defined her as a symbol of women's liberation. The tight, post-cubist composition of the painting, the muted, sophisticated color, the sense of speed and glamour, her blonde curl edging out of the head-hugging Hermès helmet, her long leather-driving gauntlets, her lubricious red lips. Clearly this is a woman who means business, even to the extent of mowing down a few pedestrians. Her time was the 1920s, a period of transition, an era in which functionalism merged with fantasy and formal social structures lurched into the frenetic. In essence, de Lempicka was a classicist, having admired Renaissance paintings since her adolescent travels in Italy. Her milieu was the glittery and scintillating Paris of the years between the wars, a place of high style and lascivious behavior. With a callous authenticity, de Lempicka depicted the shifting morals of a Paris where nothing was precisely what it seemed. She lived and worked on the bisexual fringes of a society where there were no rules beyond the demands of style and entertainment. She was the great go-getter, a believer in exploiting one's resources to the ultimate. Her iconic green Bugatti wasn't green in reality but yellow, nor was it even a Bugatti but a Renault. There are no miracles, she stated with her icy realism. There is only what you make. Who was she? De Lempicka shuffled the facts of her biography much as she meddled with her birth date. Tamara Gorka was born in Moscow, or could it have been Warsaw, in 1898 or so, to a wealthy Polish mother and a cosmopolitan Russian father. Her background of social confidence and ease was to prove an advantage to a portraitist. She confronted her sitters on equal terms. In St. Petersburg, she met Tadeusz Lempicki, a tall, saturnine attorney of noble family and, at the age of 14, announced her love for him. They were married just before the Russian Revolution. Lempicki was arrested by the Bolsheviks but his wife secured his release. Like other exiled white Russians, they arrived in Paris with no money, having abandoned their possessions. They now had a child, Kizet. Tadeusz Lempicki remained unemployed and moody. Tamara's portrait of her husband shows the queasy self-importance of the glamour boy displaced. These were years of deprivation, in which Tamara herself became determined to succeed as a professional artist. My goal, she later wrote, was never to copy, to create a new style, bright, luminous colors and to scent out elegance in my models. She became a prime interpreter of modernity. De Lempicka's painting is a thing of gloss and gesture. In her early days in Paris, she enrolled at the Académie de la Grande Chaumière and absorbed the work of the old masters, especially admiring Bronzino. In some ways, de Lempicka is a mannerist reborn. She went on to study in the studio of the symbolist Maurice Denis, a highly decorative painter who instilled the sense of discipline and structure in her work. Her most influential mentor was the painter and critic André Lefebvre, perpetrator of a less strident, gentler colored form of cubism, a style easily acceptable to the bourgeoisie. In her early Paris paintings, de Lempicka employed this synthetic cubist method, an accumulation of small geometric planes used to startlingly voluptuous effect in images of women reclining, women bathing, women embracing, laconically stroking one another's thighs. The blatant display of the naked female body was a feature of Art Deco. This was, after all, the era of Josephine Baker shaking her banana skins. De Lempicka's pair of pointing-breasted giantesses, the Friends, disport themselves in front of a futuristic stage set of skyscrapers, a 1920s fantasy of big city sex. But her images of female nudity also recalled the French neoclassical tradition. The critics' divination of perverse and grissom in de Lempicka's paintings did her burgeoning popularity no harm. Tamara played her own Art Deco goddess of desire. She was a workaholic, permitting interruptions in her 9-hour painting sessions only for such necessities as champagne, a massage, and a bath. She sold herself shrewdly and by 1923 was beginning to exhibit in small galleries in Paris. The next year, her work was shown at the Salon des Femmes Artistes Modernes in Paris, and in 1925 she had her first solo exhibition in Milan. Her social life advanced in parallel, displaying the full force of Tamara's killer instinct. Her daughter's description: there was something predatory in the way she acquired so many lovers of both sexes, many of whom were also her models and her patrons. The model for her painting, beautiful Raffaella, was picked up in the street and seduced with aplomb. The portrait throbs with an intense erotic energy. The liaison continued for a year. Tamara gave up on Tadeusz and, brandishing diamond bracelets from wrist to shoulder, joined the European avant-garde celebrities, Marinetti, Jean Cocteau, Gabriel D'Annunzio. She visited D'Annunzio at his notorious Villa Il Vittoriale in Gardone where, unusually, she resisted his advances and, equally unusually, failed to paint his portrait, a singular loss to the de Lempicka oeuvre. She was a spectacular attender of Nathalie Barney's Afternoons for Women Only and claimed to have snorted cocaine with André Gide. brand. Thanks to her contacts in the world of the Paris couturiers, de Lempicka always looked fabulous. Photographed in the right light, she could be Greta Garbo's sister. She made her entrance at smart parties in magnificent garments donated by Coco Chanel and Elsa Schiaparelli. In the late 1920s, de Lempicka acquired her most important patrons, Dr. Pierre Boucard and his wife. In the late 1920s, de Lempicka acquired her most important patrons, Dr. Pierre Boucard and his wife. Boucard was a medical scientist, inventor of Lacteel, a cure for indigestion. He had become an avid modernist and already owned several de Lempicka nudes, including her most flamboyant lesbian painting, Myrto, Two Women on a Couch. He now offered her a 2-year contract to paint portraits of himself, his wife and daughter, also asking for an option on any other paintings she produced. This sudden financial stability allowed her to buy a 3-story house and studio on Rue Macain on the left bank. She commissioned its refurbishment by Robert Mallet Stevens, the most brilliant French modernist designer of the time. With its svelte gray interior, chrome fittings, and American cocktail bar, it gave de Lempicka the setting of ultimate urban smartness to which she had long aspired. A contemporary architectural photograph shows the new studio in all its pristine glory. There in the center on its easel is the portrait of Madame Boucard, completed in 1931, a sophisticated and accomplished painting that tells us as much about de Lempicka as it does about the sitter. De Lempicka is the connoisseur of textiles, jewels, hairstyles, the cut of the garment, the swathe of the mink stole. No other painter of the period gives us so precise a reading of its material values. Madame Boucard is posed like a Renaissance courtesan, her right nipple erect beneath the oyster satin bodice. She's a figure of power, with something of the brutal allure of Wallace Simpson. What she tells us is that every sex act has its price. Size mattered in the Europe of that time. De Lempicka's male portraits show gigantic cattishness. Stiff-shouldered Dr. Boucard, with his test tube and his microscope, looks more the slick sharp man about town than man of healing. Count Fürstenberg Herdringen is a glass-eyed monster in a Frenchman's navy beret. Most frightening of all is the colossal portrait of the Grand Duke Gabriel Konstantinovich, with his gold-braided uniform and empty, sneering face. De Lempicka was an artist of the fascist superworld. Her portraits were allied to the call to order movement, the return to monumental realism in European art. When she paints the Duchesse de la Salle, the Duchess is in jackboots, one hand thrust in her pocket in an attitude of menace. It is a tremendous portrait, painted with the sheer theatrical enjoyment, the unerring sense of decor, of de Lempicka's best work. In 1933 she remarried. Baron Raoul Kuffner was the owner of vast estates donated to his family of stock breeders and brewers by Emperor Franz Joseph for supplying the Habsburg court. De Lempicka had already portrayed her future husband as a dandy desperado, gazing out inscrutably from behind hooded lids. She had also painted, and in doing so disposed of, his previous mistress, the Andalusian dancer Nana de Herrera, selecting her as model for the most overtly decadent of the damned women in the notorious group of 4 nudes. De Lempicka was never a consistent painter. As with many ruthless people, her swagger could give way to a strain of awful mockishness, cubism and kitsch. Once she became Baroness Kuffner, Tamara lost direction. The urge for fame, and indeed subsistence, left her. The age of Art Deco, in which she thrived, was over. Her sentimental studies of old men with guitars and lachrymose mother superiors are a dreadful anticlimax after the bitchy candor of her portrait of lesbian nightclub owner Susie Solitaire. The political terrors of Europe in the 1930s were impinging. She and the Baron, on holiday in Austria, were appalled to have their breakfast on the hotel veranda interrupted by a singing parade of Hitler Youth. In 1939, urged by Tamara, who was partly Jewish, Kuffner sold his estates in Hungary and they moved to the US. In New York, she tried abstract expressionism unsuccessfully and was reduced to the role of a chic curiosity, the painting Baroness. De Lempicka died in 1980 in Mexico, having directed that her ashes be scattered over the crater of volcanic Mount Popocatépetl. Described as a little hot potato came to a suitably inflammatory end. Her expensively dressed rogues gallery of portraits, though hardly great art, add up to a unique and alarming social document, recording the seductive surface textures of the European society en route to self-destruct.